Dave McMenamin joining us from Las Vegas, Nevada, where Wednesday night's showcase went down between Team USA and Team Canada. Joining us here from the worldwide leader in sports. Good to see you, Dave. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm not doing as well as Steph and LeBron and AD after getting the full wind-up dap from the president of the United States.
Yes,
but,
indeed.
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Very
doing
good.
Better than a handshake out here.
Yeah, well, that is good. Very good. Hey, listen, your sit down with LeBron James. How did you find LeBron when you sat down with him? Well, tell me what you gleaned from a guy who's been around this guy for a while.
He's someone, and you know this quite well, Rich, being around, sports figures that kind of have an outside influence with their presence. He recognizes his ability to push buttons. If he's not necessarily happy about his lot, his situation. He did none of that in my sit down with him on Sunday. Listen, the Lakers are an imperfect team right now. There's a lot of work to be done to really talk about them as a true championship contender. LeBron chose not to express that to me when I asked him about it. And to me, that's an olive branch to Jeannie Buss and to Rob Pelinka. There will be a time, I'm sure, if this roster looks the exact same as it does right now and the Lakers aren't shooting up the Western Conference standings, that he has the playbook and he knows the buttons to push in the public sphere to apply pressure to try to coerce Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss, and the Lakers brass to make some moves. But he didn't choose to make that call right now. And, perhaps it is a sign of both sides looking forward to having a less rocky partnership over what could be the final stage of his career.
Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear he's happy. They drafted his son. They gave him $100 million over 2 years. The coach that got hired, one would think LeBron had, I don't know, how would you term it? Approval or, handpicked or none of the above, Dave?
I certainly wouldn't use the term handpicked. Approval, for sure. He put his approval online through, stamping that Mind the Game podcast with JJ with his endorsement that this is someone that speaks the game on the level that he does. And LeBron's long been considered to have one of the greatest basketball IQs we've seen in the sport. And so, of course, the approval part was there. Listen, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too much here, but I actually believe that LeBron and JJ did not have a discussion behind the scenes about what JJ should be telling Rob and Jeannie in the interview process and what he needs to know about coaching the Lakers when he was interested in the job. Just because LeBron knows that virtually everything that he does ends up getting back to the public sphere at some point. And I think he has become savvy enough to know that he can sidestep some stuff. And it doesn't mean that JJ didn't speak to anyone else associated with LeBron. I'm not reporting that, but that could have occurred and there could have been a surrogate for whatever LeBron's feelings were. But I tend to actually believe that they didn't have a discussion until after JJ was offered the job from Rob Pelinka. And at that point, it's just kind of let's get to work. And the important thing, and LeBron did make note of this when we sat down to bring it up, they hired Scott Brooks and Nate McMillan. And so JJ's not flying blind as a first-time head coach. He has one guy who led the Thunder to the NBA Finals and has umpteen years of experience on the bench. Another guy who helped coach the U.S. Olympic team to gold in Beijing, and again, plenty of experience on the bench in Nate McMillan. And so I think that is as important as the team hiring JJ in order to get LeBron's buy-in going into next year.
Dave McMenamin here on the Rich Eisen Show. And what is your opinion of the Lakers drafting Bronny and how that came about? If you want to just go factual as well, I'll give you the floor and whatever you'd want to say on this subject matter. Dave?
I think he is the most discussed 55 pick in the history of the league.
There's no doubt about it. There's no question about it. There's no question.
And based on what we've seen so far, did he earn a spot in the NBA? Like what JJ said at his introductory press conference when Bronny said, "I just want to thank Rob and thank JJ for what they've given me." And JJ tried to, correct the record and said, no, you earned this, Bronny. I don't know if you can really say that based on his body of work at the NCAA level and all the kids around the country and quite frankly around the world that ended up going undrafted, that he earned it. What I truly believe, and I've just seen him, basically observed him as an older brother to his younger brother and his younger sister. And you just kind of get a sense of someone's character that way. And I've seen him from the time he was, at my waist level or whatever, 4 feet tall to where he is now, over the last decade. And I believe he's a person of high character. And I think what you can look to as a concrete example of his determination to make it is coming back from a heart attack last summer and to put himself in position to even be playing basketball. Now, yeah, a lot of people could say should that be enough to get drafted into the NBA, to the league's glamour franchise? Maybe it's not. But at the same time, I don't see it's a bad play for the Lakers to put the investment into Bronny if it means they're going to get a better version of LeBron. And also, if we're going to have this conversation, can we also acknowledge that Giannis Antetokounmpo has had his brother playing with him in Milwaukee for years now? And I don't think that's caused nearly the same uproar that this Bronny situation is currently.
No, I'm again, just so you're aware, my opinion of it is who are we to say? You know what I mean? And I think you just nailed it. That if you're going to get a better version of LeBron for the first 2 years of Bronny's career, then that alone means so much. And on top of it, we have no idea what conversations they've had for years over the importance of this moment that would be, I believe, a highlight leader for the worldwide leader in sports, as well as everybody else that is in business with the NBA. If the two of them get on the court and one assists the other, I mean, we'll be talking about that over any other result the night before in the NBA, which is awesome. So what do I care? I don't. And again, it's not as if LeBron is defrayed and they're doing this just to keep him around and it hurts the team, or they used the first round selection on him. They didn't. Right. So all of it is just, as you said, an odd spotlight for a 55th overall selection, but their last name is James, and we're talking about LeBron too. So I just wanted to take a minute here to round out our discussion with my opinion of it. So what is, and then we'll move on to the rest of the Summer League and the new Dream Team. What is the sense of what JJ Redick's going to bring to this team? Like, what's the vision here that you're hearing about with Redick, Dave?
I mean, the word that keeps getting thrown around is accountability. And then alongside that, thinking the game, and whether that be through what JJ brings to the table in terms of out of timeout plays, in terms of their overall schemes, offensively and defensively, in terms of rotations and substitution patterns. That's all one part of it. But they really want their players to be kind of starting this culture of, if you play on the Lakers, you are a player that understands the game at a higher level. It sounds great in a press conference. Rob Pelinka even suggested that they may develop some sort of app for the players to gamify JJ's offensive principles. And so they could, on some level, be filling out questionnaires or some sort of video game on their phone in order to kind of reinforce the basketball knowledge he's trying to give to his players on a daily basis. I mean, maybe that's what basketball is in 2024. It sounded a little wonky to me personally, but if the idea is pure as it is, and you can find other ways to get your players to just become sharper in understanding the game, I think it's kind of a noble first step in terms of what the Lakers aspire to be under JJ Redick.
Dave McMenamin here on the Rich Eisen Show from Las Vegas. What was it like in the building last night with USA versus Canada, Dave?
Rich, it was amazing. I've been covering USA basketball events since 2007 in Las Vegas, and I thought it would be really hard to beat the blue-white game that I covered in 2007. You had Kobe on one team, LeBron on the other. Kobe ends up hitting the game winner. That was at the Thomas and Mack. It's a smaller venue, and it didn't have quite the buzz that this one did last night. I mean, there was sellout, 20,000 plus, USA chants, fans on their feet. When LeBron and Dylan Brooks started to get into it a little bit, the crowd was smart enough to know the history between LeBron and Dylan when Dylan was with the Memphis Grizzlies and the Lakers played them in the playoffs a few years back. Honestly, it was a treat to cover. And there's this part of me as these seasons get longer and longer, like, man, do we really need to be in a gym with NBA players in July, right? But that was well worth the trip to cover. And if this USA team continues to approach the rest of the run-up to the Olympics and their time in France the way they did last night, they're going to make their mark. As you know, there will be an argument that they're the best USA basketball team in history.
I mean, they're poised. They are poised in terms of obvious resume, and I understand what the original Dream Team was and stood for, but they're certainly poised to back that up, Dave, and that is a mouthful. What was the chatter about Derrick White over Jaylen Brown that you were hearing last night?
Yeah, I mean, Grant Hill tried to diffuse the situation with a joke that went over like a lead balloon in the room. And, obviously the insinuation here is that Jaylen Brown was left off the team because Nike made the decision. And Jaylen Brown was critical of Nike online more than a year ago when they severed their relationship with Kyrie Irving after Kyrie Irving shared that documentary on his social media channels that included some anti-Semitic themes. Grant Hill goes, well, I was wearing Fila's for most of my career, and look at me being part of Team USA. And it didn't work to explain the situation. Now, I can say this. There was consideration for Derrick White before the finals was over, before Jaylen Brown was named the NBA Finals MVP. And he's been someone who's been a part of USA basketball from the under 18 junior tournament level as well. So it's not like just all of a sudden they decide that, you know what, we're not going with Jaylen Brown because of the controversy and we want to sell sneakers. And, just to rub it in even more so, we're going to take his teammate. Like this has been something that's been discussed by USA basketball now for months, because you also need to have contingency plans when that injuries are part of the sport. And so, Derrick White, I'm sure whenever he speaks to the media for the first time, once he joins the team overseas, he's going to tell us that he wasn't necessarily caught off guard or shocked by this decision, because I'm sure that Grant Hill and USA Basketball and company kind of primed the pump to ask him before we got to this point, hey, if someone does drop out, are you ready and willing to step in? And so it definitely looks bad for Jaylen Brown, and I can empathize to the spot that he's in, because kind of the de facto I'm the best player in the world title that gets passed around summer to summer is the guy who wins the NBA Finals MVP award, yes. And that's what he just did.
Right.
And to not be included, something doesn't smell right necessarily. At the same time, I can't totally fault USA Basketball and say this was just some sort of spiteful decision by them. I think the Derrick White decision was months in the making.
Well, I mean, the answer lies, I think, somewhere in between what you just said, Dave, right? I mean, it's not some sort of spiteful decision that came down from on high in the state of Oregon by Phil Knight, right? But there is something to the fact that Team USA or USA Basketball has been identifying Derrick White instead of Jaylen Brown. You know, I mean, he didn't have to be NBA Finals MVP to make this more awkward. He was already a top player in the world prior to the NBA Finals this year and throughout the playoffs. He was already showing that. And so if you're putting together the team of the best, you choose Jaylen Brown. But Grant said something along the lines of he's trying to make up a puzzle piece team. Right? I mean, so what?
Yeah, I mean,
where do we land?
Seen, like, look at the Redeem team, right? Like, that was top heavy with stars. Obviously, LeBron, Kobe, Melo, Dwight Howard, Dwayne Wade. But then they had someone like Tayshaun Prince on the team to fill a role. And, you know, the same people that are involved in putting that team together, the Jerry Colangelos of the world, the Mike Krzyzewskis of the world, they have been consultants to Grant Hill in the process of putting this team together. And so I'm sure he has, you know, anecdotal evidence from guys who had success at this level and how they thought about putting together a team and why he would feel like he'd be justified and making the right decision by putting a player with the kind of profile of a Derrick White into a group that is already so superstar heavy. And again, I don't think that's necessarily any sort of criticism of Jaylen Brown at all, but because we are here and because, again, since they were starting to lean in that direction months ago, we are now talking about Jaylen Brown being the current reigning NBA Finals MVP. It does change how the conversation looks. And that's just something they decided they were comfortable living with.
Well, I'm just trying to get you ready, Dave, for the first episode of First Take when Wimbledon's over. I mean, this may be the first hour when Stephen A. has the microphone back on. You know, just trying to get you ready.
I appreciate that, Rich.
Yeah, listen, we try to help Dave. There may be an I in Rich and Eisen. I'm a team player. Before I let you go, what is the story that I'm not asking you about of Vegas so far? Is there one? What did we discuss it?
I mean, Cooper Flagg was all the talk over Monday and Tuesday. And I'll say this. I spoke to one of the scouts who was in the gym and saw the entirety of the scrimmage. And, you know, the media was only privy to some of it. So some of the clips that you see online doesn't reflect the entirety of the scrimmage. The varsity team, so to speak, had kind of already done their work. Like, they had kind of been dominating the select team. They were up double digits midway through the fourth quarter or so. And that's when Flagg went on his little flurry. And they ended up making a competitive game there. Now, and it's not to take anything away from what he did. You got to switch on Anthony Davis when Drew Holiday was the initial defender, and he makes a step back, shot from beyond the three-point line. He catches a ball at the rim, is able to finish and take contact and get the and one. Made another, turnaround jumper over Drew Holiday and was making plays defensively too. So he was excellent in that moment. It wasn't like he was starting on the select team and had this moment when the varsity team had all their juice, all their energy to start the game. And it's like, I'm giving you my best against your best. He kind of found a lull in the game and struck and took advantage of it. He deserves a ton of credit for that. But Cooper Flagg is going to be a fantastic player at Duke and a very good NBA prospect. I'm just not ready to say like he's going to be Wembanyama Part 2 when he gets to the league in the fall of 2025.
No, what you want to? You got the anointing oils out?
Well, what I'm saying
is this Syracuse on Syracuse violence going on?
No, Flagg from the basketball hotbed of Maine, Dave, as you know.
That's right.
Because I am a fellow Hooper from the 207.
Oh my God, fellow Hooper!
Why would they just put him on the team? Why wouldn't he replace Kawhi? Wouldn't that be cool for vibes? Because he could play 5 minutes a game and be the 12th guy who isn't really going to play much anyway.
It's not a terrible idea, but I was talking with Rich, Chris, like, this has been a discussion months in the making, and they had to make sure that obviously that Derrick White would have been able to clear his schedule to some extent to be kind of the replacement in waiting. So these discussions were happening before Cooper Flagg had that wonderful day, before Jaylen Brown was Finals MVP.
This just shows you how much Chris either loves Cooper Flagg or wanted to point out he's a fellow Hooper from Maine, that he's contradicting a fellow Syracuse Orangeman And on top of it, you're complaining about they chose the wrong Celtic? I mean, come on, man. How many yachts are you water skiing behind?
I prefer
right now?
if just one Celtic played. These guys need rest.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Dave, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it. Stay cool there, brother.
Later,
That's Dave McMenamin right here from Las Vegas. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.